Hello, I'm Kerrie Akkermans, General Manager of Toop&Toop Property Management, and I'm talking today with Steve Meehan, our Maintenance Liaison Coordinator, about the importance of maintaining and upkeeping your property. We'll run through the key issues and situations that you can face as a landlord, because after all, it's your business and we want to make sure that you get the best rental return and value for your money in maintaining your property. So Steve, regular maintenance, why is that so important for landlords to do?
Regular maintenance in the long run will save you money. We've got regular maintenance, service maintenance on air conditioners, where our preferred suppliers do a set price to service ducted air conditionings, reverse cycle, evaporative air conditioners, and keeping that regular maintenance will save you money in the long run. And it's the same as gutter cleaning. You do regular gutter cleaning, it'll save damage to your house, the building, especially if you know you've got lots of trees and things around your property.
Tell me, with gutter cleaning now, what's happening with the health and safety laws of getting scaffolding? Because there's a lot of older buildings, for example, around Adelaide. What happens with those for gutter cleaning?
If you've got over like a 2-storey building, and depends on the slope of the roof and that now, our contractors under the Occupational Health and Safety Law will have to get scaffolding in, so it could increase the cost of getting the gutters cleaned. Again, in that case, you would probably look at putting gutter guard in the first time, because then it's going to save you having to actually get those ongoing costs run of putting up scaffolding and getting the gutters cleaned.
Because that's one of the highest cost areas for landlords, isn't it? Is the whole maintenance side and upkeep of their property.
Oh, totally. You know, regular maintenance is a thing that will save landlords money. And if you look at that in the long term, it really works out well for them to do that. In the short term, there's always going to be issues. You're always going to have things like hot water services might stop working, and toilets getting blocked and different things like that. And that's where if the landlords give us an expenditure limit, and then we can actually act straight away on those things so they don't get out of hand.
So what happens then in terms of the Residential Tenancies Act? What's actually classified as an emergency?
The RTT would look at an emergency. They've actually got a 3-category system of emergencies. The category 1 they would put in where a tenant basically cannot use a facility in that house that they need to use on a daily basis. So if the toilets are blocked or the hot water service stops working, that would be classed as emergency. If, let's say, the dishwasher stops working or the oven stops working, they wouldn't class that as an emergency. That is something that would wait until, you know, a working day during the week.
And can the tenant just call whoever they want to fix the problem? What sort of situation?
If it's an emergency, like toilets being blocked and they can't actually get onto us to get that fixed, then a tenant is in their right to ring up a plumber and get that fixed. And basically, if it comes back to us as an emergency or it was an issue that needed to be attended to, the landlord would then have to pay that cost and bear that cost.
And what about quotes? Will tradies still do free quotes, for example?
Our preferred suppliers do quotes for free for us because of the amount of work that we give them. They are very competitive to other companies that we find when we have to get other companies to do quotes who usually charge for quotes. We find that our preferred suppliers are very competitive. The other good thing about our preferred suppliers, we know we can ring them and they will automatically do the job as soon as possible. If it's a real emergency, we know we could probably get it done the next day. Whereas they may be waiting a lot longer if they don't use our suppliers. So that's why we recommend that, you know, to our landlords, we've had these people on board that they use our suppliers, because then we know we can get them to come back if there's any issues, or, you know, and get the work done promptly and professionally.
And you mentioned before about expenditure limits. Is that around things where if the tradie goes out, there's a call-out fee, therefore sometimes they may as well go ahead and fix it and it's only a small amount over, rather than if there isn't an expenditure limit, they go out, find out what the problem is, then there's another call-out fee. How does that all work?
What would happen is, what we'd recommend to landlords is that they give us an expenditure limit of roughly $300 minimum. Usually what we'll find is just for normal everyday, like leaking taps or lights not working or switches need to be replaced or doors need to be repaired, $300 will more than get the job done. And if they do go to the property and it's going to go over that limit, our tradespeople will ring us straight away as soon as they get there, and then we can advise the landlord that it's going to cost a little bit more. Usually it's nothing substantial. It might be another $30, $40 over the limit. So while the tradesperson there, he may as well get the job done and get it finished.
And that happens to something like sliding doors. If you take a sliding door off and you find out what the problem is, if you then have to put the door back on and go back and forth, it'd be another call-out fee, exactly extra time. Right. He may as well just fix it.
While he's there, exactly right. Just do the job while they're there. You're saving that extra call-out fee, as you said. A lot of our contractors will put that extra or the second call-out into their cost. So they won't actually charge a call-out fee the second time. They will go, our plumbing company and our electrical company won't do that. So that's again where with our preferred suppliers, we've got on board that they give us that extra bonus.
And in terms of smoke alarms, I know there's been recent legislation. What is the landlord's responsibility with that? Every
house now, rental property, has to have either a hardwired or a 10-year lithium smoke alarm in them. At the moment, we're looking at a company coming on board with us that will actually service your smoke alarms at a set cost every year, check that the backup batteries are working. This is the thing we'll highly recommend to our landlords to do. It's a peace of mind. Basically, if the smoke alarm isn't working and there is a fire and the fire brigade do a check and a test afterwards, it could make their landlord insurance null and void and their property insurance null and void, which could in the end be a very high cost to them, of course.
And would you normally recommend that landlords have landlord insurance? Doesn't their buildings cover that, contents cover that normally?
Their building insurance and their normal house insurance will not cover different costs, let's say, of a tenant breaking their lease or some building costs that will cover. Actually, landlord insurance will cover some damage.
But tenant damage, what if the tenant actually damages?
Exactly right, whereas a building insurance mightn't cover that. So it's worthwhile having that extra insurance, you know, to have peace of mind that in the long run you'll be covered for everything and not just covered for only half.
And what about if I've got an air conditioner but it's old, I'm a landlord, got an air conditioner in there, do I have to have that working if I haven't used it myself when I've lived in the property?
Whatever's in that property, when that tenant moves into that property, everything has to work. You cannot exclude it from a lease. So say you've got an old oil heater in the property, we would highly recommend you remove it, because what could happen is that the tenant might say, oh, it doesn't really matter, I'm not really worried about using it. That could be in summer, then in winter they think, oh no, I wouldn't mind having that heater working. And it would be the responsibility of the landlord to actually fix that or replace it. So you're better off making sure that when you let a property, that everything you've got in the property, spas, hot water services, are all compliant and working. Swim pools, all the filters, all the heating systems for the swim pools are working. Because in the end, the tenant has the right to have everything working in that property as they see it.
So who is responsible for gardens, for example, with watering and for maintaining pools? Who normally pays that?
It depends on the contract you take out, the agreement you take out with the tenant. With gardening, the tenant under the RTT Act is only responsible for mowing the lawns basically and weeding. They are not responsible for pruning trees, removing large amounts of rubbish. So it's very basic. So we'd recommend, if you have got a big property with nice gardens, we would recommend that you basically get a gardener to do that on regular maintenance. It is tax deductible. And the thing, you have peace of mind knowing that everything's going to look great and be looked after.
So it sounds from what you're saying is that it isn't just about the landlord getting the rent, that they may need some extra to cover for things that come up like hot water service, or if they do regular maintenance. Is that?
Exactly right. It should be budgeted into what you're going to do with your property, you know. And as I said, in the long term, it's all tax deductible. So really it's not really costing you anything in the long term. So, and you've got to look at it, it's the upkeep of the property.
So what sort of replacement value then for like carpets? I know if a property is really old, am I responsible as a landlord to paint or to replace those carpets on a regular basis? How does the tribunal?
We highly recommend that. Basically what the tribunal will look at, they have a time span of roughly 5 to 10 years on maintenance. So they will look at a property and say, okay, the carpets are 10 years old. If they're damaged by the tenant, then you would probably get no compensation for that damage because of the age of the carpets. So we would recommend replacement of those carpets at that stage, because 10 years, it really is, again, a long time. And the same with painting. Properties start to look really tired. So if you start painting your property and put in new carpets, your presentation of the property is much better. So of course that means you could get more rent. So it's worthwhile spending that money on those things.
And I know there's the term fair wear and tear. Where exactly do you draw the line with that?
That's very open. It's very open with the tribunal. It's very open with how you determine that. Every person looks at wear and tear differently. I look at wear and tear and then I look at damage. They're two totally different things. Wear and tear is minor marks, maybe some small chips. A classic is polished floorboards. You know, you might have had them just done before the tenant moves in and they're only in there for 12 months, but if they're just a soft pine, they're undoubtedly going to get scratched and indented, and that basically, when it goes to a tribunal, will be classed as wear and tear.
Can you actually write into a lease that they can't wear stilettos on floorboards, that they have to steam clean carpets when they leave?
You can write that into the lease, but they have no obligation to actually do that.
So how they find it is how they have to leave it?
Exactly right. So, and that's why we do our ingoing inspections and are very detailed about what we find in the property. If we find things before the tenant moves in, we'll recommend to the landlord that really they need to do a few more things and some extra cleaning maybe, or look at replacing a few things before that tenant moves in.
Well, it sounds like there are some grey areas there, but if you look at you have the right budget to maintain your property and you are preventive about it, then that will stop a lot of issues down the track.
Oh, totally, totally. You know, and the tenant still has a responsibility to look after your property. So between you and them and us, we need to make sure we all work together to make sure that you keep your property up to a good standard so that you get your rent return is the most important thing, and we find good tenants to look after your property as well.
We trust that this DVD has been helpful for you in understanding your rights and responsibilities as a landlord. For any further information, please contact any of our officers or go to toop.com.au.